Hey, good morning. This is Pete, North Las Vegas. We'll be talking about this, what I call a CAR15. I bought the Colt conversion upper back in '94, and I bought the Bushmaster lower at about the same time. This is an aluminum buttstock with a 4-position. You can see it uses the round locking ring instead of the castle nut. The barrel on this is a 16-inch heavy barrel, 1 9 twist, phosphate chrome lined. Uses an A2 bird cage. And the original goal here, starting maybe a couple of months ago, was to try to replicate this rifle and do like a resto. And so we'll talk a little bit about the first issue I ran into, and I'll give you a little bit more of the background on this rifle, carbine. In the last clip, I called this Colt upper a conversion, which is what they were called back then. They still are, as far as I know. And you can see the manual says 1994 right there, which is right after I bought this right after the assault weapon ban went into effect. And bought the lower. Now, you can still buy a complete upper and a complete lower with all the evil features. You just weren't allowed to put them together because then you would be creating an assault weapon. But you could still get the parts with the evil bayonet lugs and the flash hiders and all the lower stuff that, you know, they didn't want you to have. You just couldn't put together a complete rifle. If you did that, then you were breaking this so-called law. Okay, so let's take a look at exactly what this upper is. On the original manual for Colt rifle conversions back in '94, this is what you would normally get. And this carbine version, I won't say it was like a special run, but apparently it was something they added to their conversion lineup, but they didn't change the manual. All they did was they gave you a couple extra sheets of paper that came with it. So they're designating this upper as an AR6712 tactical carbine. And first thing we'll notice is on this upper receiver, it's stamped Colt 223. And whatever the chambering was or caliber, that's what they did on the conversions back then. So if this was a 7.62 by 39, they would have stamped 7.62 by 39 up here. Or if it was 9mm, they would have done the same. Okay, so it says Colt 223 on the receiver, but let's see what it says on the barrel. So this is what they have stamped on the barrel. 5.56 NATO. But everywhere else on their addendum, they spend a lot of time calling it a 223, which is okay to shoot in a 5.56, but not sure why you would stamp 223 on the receiver and then put a chambered 5.56 barrel on. Anyway, a little bit of a mystery there. So in the last clip, I was talking about the barrel marking versus receiver marking, and they do mention that in the manual here. Barrel will be marked on top 5.56 NATO, and the receiver will be marked 223. So it's actually chambered for 5.56. I don't know why they marked it that way. I don't know what the decision was on that. Now on the addendum paperwork, we're going to get away from this paperwork here in just a minute and back onto the rifle itself. You'll notice down here that it says these features identify blah, 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 blah. And consequently, this kit is not available to anyone other than law enforcement or other authorized personnel. Well, I bought this from a local FFL in Poway back in '94, so I must have been, and did not realize it at the time, but I must have been authorized personnel. Back when I bought this, Colt was also on their lowers installing what's called a sear block. And I do have a couple of those Colt rifles. I've made other videos talking and showing about it if you're interested on what the sear block looks like, because this is a Bushmaster. It does not have the lower sear block. But on the conversion, Colt would include the type of bolt carrier that you needed to run on top of a sear block lower. So that's, you can see that a lot of the bolt carrier has been removed here on the bottom. So that's also what came with this conversion. Because this is a sear block lower type BCG carrier, you can see that the firing pin is completely unshrouded here. And what happens is, if this firing pin is to the rear, this hammer, this notched hammer on the Bushmaster, will come up and hit that firing pin if this firing pin is to the rear. So when you put these two halves together, you have two choices. You can move this firing pin back with your finger, or you can cock the hammer. And but if I try to put this together and not make sure that either one of those is taking place, I possibly could damage the firing pin. So let me try to show you that on camera. So with that firing pin all the way to the rear, as I come in, you can see where the hammer is going to make contact with the back of the firing pin. And this prevents this from going into position. And like I said, I never, once I discovered what was going on, I was really careful about trying not to slam these two halves together. If I did it with enough force, I'm sure that hammer would still want to retract to the rearward position, but I got a feeling that, we're going to cause some damage to the firing pin. So now if I take this firing pin and I move it all the way forward, okay, now the hammer will clear the firing pin and the receiver will go together no problem. Okay, so we've talked about the carbine a little bit, and I don't know if I've already mentioned it. I think I did at the beginning of the video. The original goal here was to try to reproduce this rifle and with all new parts and what's available on the market today. So about 2 months ago, what I decided was, okay, let's see if we can find the handguards. Now these are XM177 handguards, and they also put them on a lot of CAR15s. But this isn't exactly an XM177. I would classify it more as a CAR15. But anyway, that was my first thing was wanting to get a set of handguards for the new retro build. And that's when I went to Palmetto State Armory, and I bought a set of these for $64. And these are the correct 6 holes. That's what came on mine, was 6 holes. Sorry about the lighting. You'll find a lot of 7-hole versions on the market. I don't know where 7 holes came from. I don't know if 7 holes were ever put on military, maybe police, definitely civilian. But back in the day, as far as I know, Colt only produced these with 6-hole handguards. I'm not a big, huge historian on Colt, so I can't speak from authority on that. But I wanted to get the correct 6 holes to reproduce what I have here. So when I got the handguards, they didn't fit. So one of the first things I tried to do was take a file and shave down the back, because I thought I had a length problem, which is why they wouldn't fit on this rifle. So I couldn't get the H&Rs to fit on this rifle, and I took a file to the back and shaved off about 1/16 of an inch. Like I said, thinking that I had a length problem from here to here. So what I did to the H&R handguards was I took a file, and like I said, I shaved off about 1/16 of an inch off the back end, thinking that I had a length problem. So then when I went and put them on the carbine, they still wouldn't fit. So then what we discovered was 2 things. The back here on the H&Rs were out of round. They were almost like an oval. So as I tried to slide this back over the barrel nut teeth, it would interfere with the barrel nut teeth. There wasn't enough clearance to get this to fit. And then the other thing that I discovered was the slot here that fits over the barrel nut teeth was not in the right place. So it really wasn't a length problem. It was more about this slot and the fact that this was out of round. Now, here's the part that really got me annoyed. While I was trying to fit the H&Rs to that carbine I was just showing you, I noticed up in this area here, it said B5. So I did a little research, and sure enough, they were B5 handguards that I got from H&R. So now I'm going to show you Mike, the CEO from H&R. I'll show you his response. Mike ran across the previous video I did on the B5 handguards that I received for $25 is usually what they go for, and after paying $64 for the H&R branded, or what were supposed to be H&R branded, not B5. And here was his response, and here was my response in the bottom. So rather than go over the whole thing verbally, if you guys are interested in that conversation, you can read why I didn't get a hold of customer service and why I didn't try to return them. Has the issue been resolved? I don't know. And his explanation of how B5s got boxed up into H&R boxes at a premium price, I have no idea how that happens. I can't understand how that would happen by mistake, but that's just my opinion. Maybe it was an honest mistake, some kind of accident. I don't know. I'll give Mike the benefit of the doubt. Since the H&R B5 debacle, I've ordered a set from Linemount. I've been all over online, and most of the time what you're going to find is a 7-hole version, not the correct 6-hole for what I'm looking for anyway. And I thought we'd give this out a try here. Now they're upfront about where they're made, and I'm not like overly happy about that, but at least it's better than, made in China. So that's what this video is primarily about today. We're going to see if these line mounts actually fit. And they come in a foam. They came in a foam package in a bubble wrap pouch, and that's how they were shipped. So we'll take a look at these. I'm going to go pop the handguards off of that, and we'll compare the original Colt to these line mounts. Original Colt on the right. Line mount on the left. Colt. Line mount. You'll see that a lot of aftermarket handguards will have what I call buttons instead of this this type of locating design. And the line mounts have copied the Colts. Colt. Line mount. I mean, they're almost identical. If you had them right in front of you, you might be able to nitpick a few differences here and there, but very, very, very close. And this is 1994. It's been handled a little bit. Okay, let's pop these on the carbine and see if they fit the final test. So these went on. They're a little bit tight lengthwise, but otherwise everything else seemed to line up. You can see on the originals here where they I made some adjustments, fitting adjustments, and that's not from wear on the Delta ring. These came this way originally from the factory, but you can see where the factory went in here and kind of ground these down just a little bit to get maybe more engagement in the Delta ring. I did have to use my tool. I didn't have to fight with it, but I did have to use my tool because it's pretty snug. When I grabbed the hand guards on the rifle, there's a slight amount of flex. I mean, just a very slight amount. If I squeeze, if I just, grab the hand guard and not put a lot of pressure on it, it's fine. The only other issue I noticed was the heat shield is just touching the gas block, or I'm not sorry, the gas tube, towards the very end. You can see we've got clearance everywhere until we get right there. So I can just maybe adjust the tube a little bit, or I can maybe adjust the shield, just, bend the tabs a little bit inside the handguards and make that adjustment. So overall, I would say that, it's probably a pretty good option. I don't know if I'm going to keep them. I may want to try to find a set that don't have the flex. I mean, it's not much. I mean, you can just barely feel it, but I mean, it's there compared to the original Colts. So let's get the original Colts back on. And you can see, I mean, they look pretty good, I think. I have my original Colts back on. You can see the same thing where the heat shield is just touching the gas tube in there, just barely making contact. So maybe have to tweak the gas tube a little bit. Okay, so what are my final thoughts here? We got to say that the Linemounts fit, so that's a huge plus. They're not quite as rigid as the original Colts, so when you squeeze these, I mean, if you put some pressure on them, you'll feel them moving a little bit. Not a whole lot, but they definitely move a little bit. So the polymer they're using, or the thickness, or whatever's going on. But overall, is this an option? Yes, I would say it is. Am I going to stick with these? And I'll probably use them on my next build, but will I keep them? I don't know. Trying to find new old stock Colts. Specialized Armament had a set for $200. And it's like, no. So you may be in a position where you don't have much choice as far as aftermarket. Like I was saying earlier in the video, I don't know if H&R got their little problem straightened out as far as giving people B5s. Maybe that issue's been resolved. All right, Pete in North Las Vegas, over and out.